Today we're going to talk about how do we recuperate? What do we have to do to get better? And we've already talked that there are 3 different stages of adrenal response. And the first one's that alarm stage. When something happens in the short term, it cranks us, gets us stressed out. We get our cortisol running, we get our adrenaline running through our body. And then we have this alarm response, which is the healthy, perfect thing to do. Then after the stress goes away, we recuperate. And this is that short-term thing, get into stress and then bounce back. It recovers just like a pendulum swinging. If that happens, then this is what's known as a good stress, because that good stress, it pushes us, and then as we recuperate and we go into rest and recovery, we get stronger. We don't get stronger while we're dealing with the stress. That actually breaks us down. But when we recuperate, that's when we rebuild the muscle. That's when we rebuild our emotional muscle. That's when we rebuild our chemical responses so that our chemicals, we can handle chemical stress better. This is that process. So good stress is we get into alarm and recover. We go into resistance when we get stuck and we're over here in this stress stage all the time. And so now we're pushing and pushing and we're not recuperating. Well, in the early stages of that, we've got some reserve and we just willpower through. But we're not ever going back to that recovery place in our bodies where we rebuild the muscle and we actually get stronger because we had that good recovery time. Resistance is where we're stuck over here. We start burning through our reserves and we start noticing internally that things aren't going right. But to recover from this, until it's really dug in deep into our reserves, we can just get out of the stress and go back to recovery. In the early stages of that, you might benefit by some different kind of herbs, maybe change your diet a little bit to make it easier on you, make sure you're supporting yourself really well. This is still a lifestyle piece where you get to recover from. But you remember we talked about all the changes in our body that happen from chronic stress, where our brain becomes, the blood flow goes to the back of the brain, we're not as creative, we're not as productive. Our digestion gets suppressed, our libido gets suppressed, our immune system gets altered, our whole body changes in response to this stress. And then when we hit exhaustion, it's where those changes are now becoming permanent. And we've got those vicious cycles that feed back to where the changes in our body are now creating stress in and of themselves. So the problem is when we get down here, lifestyle's not enough because the body has broken down enough that our body itself causes stress. In the alarm stage and the resistance stage, you just take your life and change it and de-stress it. Now, I would love to work with people here because it's so easy to do. We help your brain get a little bit more flexible. We do some adjusting that helps the brain unlock from the fight or flight. Because when we get into this, our brain gets good at whatever we do a lot of. And when we're down here in resistance, brain gets really good at stress and we're not practicing recovery, so the brain gets kind of sloppy on its recovery. Chiropractic's amazing because we can adjust you and help get the brain to where it can shift gears back and forth easier, and that allows you to go from resistance back up to alarm and all the lifestyle pieces. But we're down here now, the body is causing its own stress. And now we've got a vicious cycle in play where our digestion, we eat food and we get inflamed and we get swollen, and that raises our stress levels. When we go out and move and we exercise and we've got pain, that increases our inflammation and our stress levels. So now we are our own stress. So now you just change your lifestyle. It helps some, but not enough. So what we do in this stage is we work on helping free the brain up so the brain and body can communicate. We start improving the different parts of the body that have broken down. Big piece is about digestion. Another piece is about making sure we've got our metabolism's working and we can make the hormones we need to run our thyroid and to run our adrenal glands, to run our sex hormones. We want to get the hormone balance right. We want to make sure that our immune system's functioning well and successfully so that we can keep those pieces in check. And we put the body back together, but it needs help once it gets this far run down. When you get tired, when you feel many places in your body flaring up, this is when you start going to the medical community and asking for help, and they're going to look at this not as adrenal exhaustion, but as a dozen different problems. And whichever part of your body's complaining the most, well, you'll go see that specialist. And if you go see a doctor about digestion, they're going to go, you've got irritable bowel syndrome, or you're just constipated and we need to give you something to ease that. And they start treating the symptoms. And then if you find that it's really affecting your libido, you go see an endocrinologist or your gynecologist, and they tell you it's about a sex hormone imbalance. And so they give you something to treat that. And everybody treats the tail end, the last symptom that's where they can point their finger to. And nobody looks at the big picture. And the big picture is that your whole body's acting up. And we can see it. And that tells us what the real cause is this system's out of balance. And we start working on putting them all together again.